Well, hi again, everybody. As you know, this is my vlog for my trip through Eastern Europe, studying the cultural trauma communications through the camera here. Right now, we are officially in Poland, which is really exciting. For a day or about 2.5 days, we are in Warsaw, which is a really modern city, which surprised me. I thought it would be old, cobblestone streets like the rest of Europe, but it's actually pretty modern, wide streets. And you learn when you learn the history of Warsaw that this is because over 85% of the city was destroyed during World War II, which is heartbreaking because they lost so much history there. But they've made the city really beautiful. Most people there say it's ugly and they apologize for how ugly the city is, but it's beautiful, especially with the history. While we were there, we did a walking tour of the old town, or what used to be the old town slash Polish ghetto. Um, None of it remains, but they have it marked out as a path, and we walked the path of it, and they explained some of the buildings, which is really cool. And then went to the Museum of the Polish Jews, and that museum walked us through the entire history of the Jewish race and religion, and how they're two different things, two different ideas. Most people only think of their religion. And then it showed how oppressed this whole population has been since the Middle Ages, which I had no idea. When you think of Jews, you think they were oppressed during the Holocaust, but they've been oppressed forever. They were segregated to different communities, and it shows the path on how we got to the Holocaust and why the Jews were chosen. And then we went to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising Museum, which shocked me. I had read about it in history books, but never thought it was that big of a deal. It's a huge deal. And we went to the museum, and bomb sounds are going off always, so you feel like you're in a war zone. After all of that, we Skyped with a Holocaust survivor, actually. We Skyped with a man named Henry, who was actually the grandpa of a kid in my class, which is crazy. So Henry escaped a camp before he went to Auschwitz, or was supposed to go to Auschwitz, and he told his entire story, beginning to end, which really shocked me how well he was be able to continue. If it was me, I would not be able to talk about that trauma that easily, but he did awesome. And I was shocked how gracious he was about his life. I mean, all that trauma happened. He's like, I have a great wife, great kids, my grandkids are amazing. It's just really inspirational how he kept his life together and turned his life around. 180, he's a doctor. It was cool. And then we traveled to Krakow, and the city is just how I pictured it. Old cobblestone streets, the old market is huge and beautiful, and the food is amazing. Um, but yeah, while we are in Krakow so far, we've watched Schindler's List, and it's the second time I've actually seen this movie, and it is even more gut-wrenching the second time. I don't know if it's because that we're studying about the topic, so now I know more about what is actually happening in the movie, but it was hard to stomach. And then we're also doing some reading. They're keeping us busy. We read, I'm going to butcher this name, Primo Levi, or Levi, If This Is Man. So it talks about his experience on how he got to Auschwitz and his experience while he's in Auschwitz. And what really stuck with me about this reading is he talks about the different levels in the camp, how some prisoners are treated high, their bellies are full, and then as you work down the mark, you get to him where barely enough food. And you really see this in Schindler's List. When I at least thought of camp prisoners, I just think of all the Holocaust pictures that you see, these tiny skinny men, but some of them were well fed, like the capos. And in Schindler's List, it shows that these people are your friends. You were friends with them outside, and yet you go in to these camps and they're the one throwing out punishments. They're enforcing these laws, and how hard that drawing that line would be. Another reading we've done a couple readings on this, are disaster selfies, which I had no idea were a thing. But people are going to these sites of huge trauma like 9/11, Holocaust, and they're taking selfies, which personally does not make sense to me. But it's a self-representation in a disastrous event, and some people are arguing that these selfies are showing that their life continues in these horrible events, and how these selfies mean something to the person, different to the person taking the picture than they do to us looking at it. Personally, I don't think a selfie in any of these disastrous events are okay. I think taking a selfie of yourself takes away takes attention away from the trauma that happened at that place. And I don't think any attention should be taken away from that. The trauma needs to be acknowledged. The trauma needs to be honored and remembered. So when we go to Auschwitz tomorrow, I will definitely not be taking a selfie. But if people, that's the way they need to process the event, that's their choice. But yes, we will be going to Auschwitz tomorrow, so it will be a very, very heavy day, which I'm sure you'll hear about in my next vlog. So until then, bye!